out of the 6 live-action Transformers movies, Bumblebee was easily the best. Both story-wise, because, it actually had a good story that didn't focus on the humans for a good majority of the time. Like, there was some Transformer stuff. Why are there even humans in the Transformers movie? They kind of need a movie time that we could actually be seeing Transformers fighting. Anyways, that aside, it also had better designs than whatever the live-action movies, the first 5 ones that we had that basically had, like, odd-looking Autobots and weirdly deformed Decepticons. Like Bone Crusher. That's still one of my favorite movie designs, and I don't know why. Anyways, yeah. And, of course, when I saw the first trailer, we were currently only introduced to 2 Cybertronians. Bumblebee because, it's not like it's called Bumblebee because it's going to focus on Cliffjumper. And what we all thought was going to be Starscream, but instead ended up being Blitzwing. Although we had Ramjet's colors, so... Anyways, this is a review I've been delaying for far too long, so here it is. Studio Series Blitzwing. Let's finally get this review done. Before getting into the actual figure, of course, Blitzwing comes with the exact same backdrop that Bumblebee has, except it's lacking the jet. I don't know. Maybe that was Blitzwing. I don't know. Nah, it wasn't. But yeah, it's the exact same backdrop that came with Off-Road Bumblebee here, only upscaled the Voyager. So, yeah, you got that. Anyways, so Studio Series Blitzwing here turns into an F... Hey, wait a minute. That's not an F4 Phantom. Over the licensing issues? Yeah, there probably were. There were most likely licensing issues. That would make sense. And well, all that aside, I will say that the jet mode looks pretty decent. As we all know, jets are pretty hard to perfect in Transformers, unless we're going with a completely Cybertronian jet, which in that case, yeah, sure. But Earth jets always seem to look, I don't know, a little kibbly from the underside. Because, heck, even the G1 Seekers weren't perfect. Let's just face it. Jets are always going to be cursed with underside kibble. And, dear lord, he has a lot. That is a lot of underside kibble. Like, you got the chest, and you got the arms. That's pretty much it. Which mean, and he's also got the missile pods. Those are actually an accessory and not permanently fused onto the shoulder. Yeah, you got that. And, of course, you got wheels. Unfortunately, they don't roll. This one can fold in, but that's more or less for transformation. Although, you could have this if you wanted to. Also, he's got this large hinge system. This is actually relevant to his transformation. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah. I actually don't know what kind of jet this is. I really don't. I don't know what kind of jet actually has splitting tail fins. For those of you who know anything about jets, please let me know if there's a jet that actually looks like this. Just for future reference. Although the jet mode is largely unfinished in the back, like, you can still see the feet. Robots in disguise. But yeah, this clearly isn't an F4 Phantom. F4 Phantom has the wings mounted on the intakes, but lower. Here it's just, basic jet. Hooray. Just look at a few features. You can open up the cockpit. You can't really put anything in there because his noggin's in there. The nose cone can fold down. I don't know if that's actually a thing. The tail fins are adjustable. I may actually just leave it like this, but seriously though, what jet has a splitting tail fin? That's what I want to know. And the wings look pretty good. And then there's the underkibble. I do really like the painting on this, like especially the black spray effect that's applied on the nose cone and kind of continues here and then stops and we go to straight white. Hey, at least he's not completely white like the stock photography that we saw for him. I question the intelligence of the stock photographers for these figures. Like, Why would you use an unpainted prototype? That's what I want to know. But yeah, so as for accessories, Blitzwing comes with a total of 4. We already have, of course, the aforementioned missile pods, but we also get the gun that he used. This is not an null ray. I don't really need him to come with null rays. And also the little voice box injector they used to rip Bumblebee's voice box out. And I just thought Studio Series Bone Crusher having a removable face was morbid. He literally comes with a morbid accessory. I'm telling you, if I just showed this on screen, you'd probably already know what this is. But yeah, to store everything, you can either store the gun back here, but that just looks odd. What the directions tell you to do is, there's this little slot in the gun, that'll plug in here, and that works, I guess. And the voice box injector just plugs onto the back of the tail fin. It's not very aerodynamic, I'll say that. And, of course, the missile pods are detachable. I mean, yeah, because of course they are. I mean, obviously they need to end up in the wing, so of course they're going to part form. But, I mean, well, they're not really used as weapons. Although, to be fair, they actually look like they could be useful in battle, unlike some other figures' parts forming pieces. Get back in there. Screw it. But yeah, so the jet mode is it's a bit of a letdown, but the vehicle mode is not something I often display my figures in. It's usually the robot mode. That is not to segue into the transformation, because we still have some size comparisons to do. So, here we have Power of the Prime's Battle Flash, and scale. What's that? His rival, Offer Bumblebee, and, you know, I already showed off the size comparison for this in my previous review of this figure. And as for the final size comparison, my first acquisition and purchase of 2021, Studio Series 86 Hot Rod. Yes, I was somehow able to find this figure. I'm honestly surprised I was able to find it, because usually figures take forever to show up at my local retailers. It takes forever. That's all I'm going to say. I might actually review this guy next, or I could do one of the planned reviews I already had before purchasing him. I'll probably go with the latter option. But yeah, so that is the jet mode, and I'd probably rate it like a 5 out of 10. I mean, it doesn't really have the correct alternate mode. It looks unfinished in some places. But the painting's nice, so, you know, that makes it good. But that's only the jet mode and like 1/3 of the figure. Remember, because we still have a transformation and a robot mode to look at. So let's get to that transformation, shall we? The transformation does start out with a little bit of minor parts forming, but that's something that's never really bothered me that much. I mean, parts forming is bad, but it's never bothered me. And also, there's not really a whole lot to say about the transformation, other than it does the job of turning a jet into a robot. And he's got Titan to turn cup engineering in the legs, so, you know, that's pretty neat. So what we end up with here is a pretty good-looking robot mode. I think if we had to sacrifice one mode on Blitzwing, I'd say the jet mode was probably the right way to go. I mean, I know that this line focuses on screen accuracy for the live-action designs, and now apparently the 86 movie designs. Okay, then. Oh, shoot. Hot Rod fell over again. But yeah. One thing I will say is that this is what the live-action Seeker design, at least in Starscream's case, should have looked like. Because we only really got to see Starscream. We didn't get to see Skywarp, Thundercracker, the Coneheads, the Rainmakers, those guys. But yeah, this is definitely what it should have looked like, and not just a Dorito with chicken legs. Now that is what I call bad comedy. And yeah, overall, it looks pretty good. Like, it looks like he's supposed to look like in the movie. So, great job, Studio Series Blitzwing. You did your job. Now, a few problems. I've heard that the wings pop off, but that doesn't happen to me. I'm usually pretty gentle with my figures and try not to yeet them into the sun when I notice one glaring flaw in them. But one major problem is you try to rotate the shoulder, and the chest will just untab, and the wings will droop back down. This is bad comedy. You see, it's not the problem that the shoulders are too tight. Tightness in the joints works, and thankfully they're not loose. It's that the chest has nowhere to tab in this mode. So it's basically relying on the wing pack, but these tabs could have been wide, not long. So anytime you try to rotate the shoulder, the entire chest will go with it, and the backpack will come untabbed. So what you have to do is just like hold the chest and then rotate the shoulder, which I guess is fine. But yeah, I really wish the chest did tab in. I also sometimes I can't really seem to get him to stand, but you know, it's probably because the legs are leaning backwards. That's usually the case. Also, he's got a stand port in a really weird place. That exists. That exists for sure. As for his articulation, you have a ball going to the head, and he can look up pretty far. Like, really far. It's probably because the ball joint cut is, like, all the way into the back of his head. So, that has something to do with it. You got a rotation at the shoulder, the arm moves out. You got a bicep rotation joint, which is odd because you think it would be down here, but instead it's up there. So you got that. You got a double jointed elbow and a wrist swivel. And the fists can pop off, but I'll show that off later. Unfortunately, no waist swivel, but you do get... excuse me for a brief moment, just gotta move some stuff. You got rotation at the leg, and it can go forward, but not that far back. Hips can move out, the chest will untab itself. The wings will untab. That's gonna get annoying after a while. No joke, this is some bad comedy. You got a side rotation, bend at the knee, and ankle pivot. And the toes can go in, but that's more or less due to the transformation. So yeah, you can get some pretty good poses out of this guy. Oh, I totally forgot to mention that his right hand and right hand only can open. I think this is so he can hold Off-Road Bumblebee by the neck so he can rip his voice box out. But unfortunately, Bumblebee's a little too heavy, so what I just do is I try to mount him up on something. Oh well. Oh well, we tried. Unfortunately, you can't hold B-127. I mean, I need to have a figure stand for Bumblebee, but unfortunately I don't. So there's that. So once again, as for his accessories, you get, once again, the 2 missile pods, which, you know, I usually just mount back there. They can stay there. You also get his gun, which can shoehorn itself over the hand. So he'll hold the gun, and this tab here will go into a little slot on the arm. You gotta make sure his hand's in a certain position. And there you go. Now you got a little gun. It's got the barrel, and it's got a couple missiles. And this is the slot that the gun needs to tab into. And of course, as for his other accessory, you just pop his hand off, and you put on the spike injector, voice box injectors thing. And yeah, he looks pretty good with his weapons. I mean, unfortunately, he can't really do the whole thing where he's holding Bumblebee and he stabs his voice box out. So that kind of sucks, but... oh well. You can just use it like a sword or something. Or a really weird knife. Yeah, there's that. Also, the wings are a little posable, but I usually just keep them mounted like this. They look better that way. So, for a few quick size comparisons, here we have Studio Series Off-Road Bumblebee, who's refusing to stand now. But you have Studio Series Off-Road Bumblebee, and they scale together pretty well. So there's that. You got Power of the Prime's Battle Trap, and I think he can Off-Road be... okay, Battle Trap is taller. So got that. Here we have Earthrise Leader Class Optimus Prime, and actually scaled together pretty well. I think that scale works. And last but not least, here we have Studio Series 86 Voyager class Hot Rod. You know, that's something I never thought I'd hear myself say. But here we are now. I'm still amazed that I was able to get this figure. But yeah. So, overall, I think he's pretty good. But of course, there's the final verdict, though. I mean, to switch cameras for, so I'll do that. Overall, I think this is actually a pretty decent figure. Like, he ain't perfect. There is no such thing as the perfect figure. There can be such a thing as a perfect representation of the character, but there is no such thing as the perfect figure. And Blitzwing does have a few flaws to drag him down. The chest untabbing, the lack of a waist joint, the transformation not really being all that interesting except for the legs. Because Titan's Return Cup engineering in the legs, that's always a treat to see. Only, you know, I've only seen it in like 3 figures. Titan's Return Cup, Siege Hound, and this figure. One of which I own, obviously. And the get mode isn't really a whole lot to write home on either. It's inaccurate. But I will give him a solid 8 out of 10. He's not perfect, but he's decent. So, anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure, if you want to support the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share this video with others, do all that other stuff. And this is Iron Thanos 21, signing off. I need to go eat.